Okay. Hey, everyone. So I'm actually recording this a second time because the first one I recorded, I forgot a question, so I just decided to redo it. So my video wouldn't work again, so I'm just going to use this. But basically, I want to mention some misconceptions that I had, I think, in my undergraduate. I really had it in my head that formative assessment was SATs, ACTs, PSSAs, Keystone testing, anything that was reliable and valid, that was like prevented by like a larger association. So I really kind of thought any teacher assessment was just considered informal because it wasn't like a corporate test. I don't know why, but that's just kind of the impression that I had in my undergrad. So what I liked about the blog post, which is the first question, was that right away the authors mentioned that there's a lot of confusion between the two, and people often think of these tests as SATs, DIBELS, blah, 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 what I just said. So I like that he cleared that up right away. So as I kept reading, he said that formative assessments, or they said that formative assessment primarily depends on the teacher's knowledge, their observation skills, their ability to adapt their own instruction, and create classroom environments that allow students to be engaged and providing relevant information to them. So I really liked this article because it was short and sweet, and it immediately cleared the misconceptions that I had about formative assessment. Also, it says that formative assessments provide us with the information necessary to optimize instruction. Without formative assessment, we can't possibly know the best way to instruct our students because we aren't using what we have in front of us. We're just using what we think, and that's not a viable way to do it. So that was the first article. The next question: what did you learn about formative assessments from the other sources? So the first article was a position statement of the IRA. Teachers and students share responsibility for learning was what they basically led this article in with, that quote. And I like that because I think a lot of teachers get that wrong. A lot of teachers think that, especially like more middle and especially high school teachers that I would have had, they put out what they think you need to know, and then you're just like expected to either do it or not, and it was definitely not a shared responsibility. So another interesting part of this article was that formative assessment is an integral part of everyday teaching. Again, I would have not have thought that was formative assessment. I would have thought that was informal or just, I don't know. I was not aware. So it's the ongoing process that requires constant feedback. I think this is so important. Constant feedback. When a kid is told something like 3 days later that they didn't do right, it's not gonna mean as much to them as it will in the moment. The second article was organizing and evaluating results from multiple reading assessments. This article basically talked about using more than one assessment to determine what the student needs. I think this makes complete sense. As a learner, I learn visually, auditorily, and kinesthetically, basically a fair combination of them all. So that makes sense to me on a test. Why would you use just one method? There's so many different ways to get a picture of someone. So I think that getting results from many different assessments is the best way to acquire it. I believe the end of the article stated, I don't have it in front of me. The end of the article stated that using multiple reading assessments helps the individual. You are getting information for each child using each of them. And I think, honestly, it's the best way to figure out what you need to do as a teacher and what a school needs to do as a school. The last question, number 3, what is your philosophy about formative assessments? Well, I believe that formative assessments give the teacher the information that they need to instruct. Without formative assessment, you're not instructing to your crowd. You're just instructing to anyone. Like it might not come across as well. When you have formative assessment, you're able to adapt what you teach. You know what your students need. By setting goals, using daily assignments, exit tickets, checklists, anything involving that will allow the teacher to know exactly what they should teach the next day. Did they not understand what happened today? Did their exit slips all say that they did not understand it? Guess what? You're doing tomorrow. You're reteaching that lesson. You're providing more support, more instruction. I think that formative assessment is the best way to ensure that your teaching is up to standards, honestly. I think it's a high quality teacher. And that would be all I have on formative assessment.